On February 10, 2021, the world said goodbye to Larry Flynt, publisher and free speech activist. Famous for creating the porn magazine Hustler, Flynt's story is a rags-to-riches tale. Flynt died quietly in his sleep, reportedly due to frailty and heart failure. Let's follow the life of Larry Flynt, who ran away from home at 15 to join the Army, right through becoming the king of a pornographic empire. Flynt was a man who challenged the establishment and would become a target for feminist groups and the religious right. We'll learn about how Flynt was shot and left paralyzed from the waist down, and how this controversial character would end up embroiled in a series of legal battles over decency. In this video, we say R.I.P. to Larry Flynt, the founder of Hustler magazine. Flynt was born into poverty. Born in McGuffin County, Kentucky in November of 1942, Larry Flynt was the first of 3 children. His father, Larry Claxton Flynt Sr., was a sharecropper and a World War II veteran. His mother, Edith, was a homemaker. Because Flynt was born during the war, his father was away fighting in Europe. This meant young Larry was largely raised by his mother and his maternal grandmother until he reached the age of 3. McGuffin County was actually the poorest county in the entire U.S. during the Great Depression. Flynt's 4-year-old sister died of leukemia when Flynt was 9, and her death pushed Flynt's parents towards divorce when Larry was 10. Flynt then moved to Indiana with his mother, while his brother was left with his grandmother in Kentucky. 2 years later, Flynt moved back to McGuffin County to live with his dad because he didn't like his mom's new boyfriend. Flynt ran away to join the Army. In the 9th grade, Flynt ran away from home. Even though he was only 15, he joined the U.S. Army using a forged birth certificate. It was during this time he developed a taste for playing poker. Finally, after an honorable discharge, Flynt returned home to Indiana to his mother before finding work for a manufacturing company. He was made redundant soon after following a union-led slowdown. Flynt went on to work as a bootlegger, but stopped when he discovered that the county deputies were onto him. Flynt served in the Navy. Following his brief stint bootlegging, Flynt went on to join the U.S. Navy, becoming a radar operative. He was the operator who was on duty on the ship assigned to recover John Glenn's space capsule. He served in the Navy for a total of 4 years before being honorably discharged. Flynt owned several bars. After getting out of the Navy, Flynt returned home and used his savings to buy his mother's bar, named the Kiwi. He used the profits from this bar to buy another 2 bars. He'd work long hours and developed an amphetamine habit. He went on to open a series of high-class bars with nude hostess dancers that would be called Hustler Club. Flynt went on to open 5 more Hustler Clubs. In 1972, Hustler magazine was born. Hustler started out as a 2-page newsletter advertising his clubs, but it got so popular it eventually expanded to 32 pages. In 1973, the recession hit, and Flynt faced bankruptcy. To save himself, he decided to launch a full pornographic magazine, which would become known as Hustler. The first issue of Hustler magazine hit the shelves in July 1974. The first few issues didn't sell well, but within a year, the magazine was turning over a decent profit. In November of '74, the magazine included its first, quote, pink shots. These were photos of open vulvas. Of course, it was a challenge getting these issues to print. Back then, material such as this was deemed too explicit, and even his distributors threatened to remove it from the shelves. Sometime soon after, Flynt was approached by a member of the paparazzi who had taken some shots of former First Lady Jackie Kennedy Onassis while she sunbathed naked on vacation in '71. Flynt snapped them up for $18,000, published them in 1975, and the rest is history. That issue sold more than 1 million copies within a few days, and turned Flynt into a millionaire.
In the 1970s and 80s,
Flynt faced legal problems wherever he turned. There were countless legal battles facing Flynt throughout the 70s and 80s. All of them were regarding the regulation of pornography and freedom of speech. The first time he was prosecuted was by Simon Lay, who was in charge of a local Cincinnati anti-pornography committee. Flynt was given a 7 to 25-year prison sentence. He served just 6 days as the sentence was overturned on appeal due to misconduct in the prosecution. In 1976, another court case was launched against Flynt, this time a libel suit over a derogatory Hustler cartoon filed by Kathy Keaton, the then-girlfriend of Bob Guccione, the publisher of Penthouse. The suit raised in Ohio would later be dropped when she missed the deadline under the statute of limitations. The case was later taken up in New Hampshire, where Hustler sales were actually quite low. There was a lot of debate about whether Keaton could sue there. In 1983, Flynt lost the lawsuit. The case is often studied in law schools because of the implications of personal jurisdiction over a defendant. In 1983, Flynt won a surprising U.S. Supreme Court victory over televangelist Jerry Falwell. Falwell sued Flynt for libel after an alcohol ad in Hustler suggested Falwell had lost his virginity to his own mother. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. And stick around, we got a lot more about Larry Flynt. Larry Flynt was shot and left paralyzed. In 1978, Flynt was shot by a sniper and left paralyzed from the waist down. He needed a wheelchair for the rest of his life. The assassination attempt occurred during a legal case related to obscenity in Georgia. Flynt and his lawyer were on their way back into the courthouse when they were both shot at on the sidewalk. The gunman, Joseph Paul Franklin, was standing near an alley on the other side of the road. Franklin was a white supremacist and serial killer. Much later, he confessed to the shootings, saying he was angered by an interracial photo shoot in Hustler. Franklin was never brought to trial for attempting to kill Flynt, despite the fact Flynt had made statements to the effect that he agreed Franklin's statements were, in fact, correct. Franklin was later charged with 8 unrelated counts of murder and, as a result, was sentenced to death. Flynt spoke about Franklin's execution, saying he didn't want him to be put to death. Franklin was executed by lethal injection in 2013. The shooting left Flynt paralyzed with permanent damage to his spinal cord. He was in constant pain and developed an addiction to painkillers. He had several surgeries that eventually deadened the nerves affected. Flynt overdosed on his analgesic medication, which caused him to have a stroke. He made a recovery, however, he always had pronunciation problems from that point on. Flynt played his own judge in a movie about him. In the 1996 movie The People vs. Larry Flynt played the judge who sentenced him in the case. The movie was directed by Milos Forman and starred Woody Harrelson as Flynt. The film was a critical hit, winning Oscar nominations for direction and Best Actor. Larry Flynt was worth more than $100 million. Although he started off from humble beginnings, Larry Flynt went on to become worth more than $100 million. He owned his own Gulfstream 4 and had previously owned a Gulfstream 2. At its most successful, Hustler sold more than 3 million copies every issue. That was until the internet came along and brought about a drop in sales. Larry Flynt was no fan of Donald Trump. Back before the 2016 election, Flynt offered $1 million to anyone who could offer up any videos or audio recordings of Trump acting in a derogatory, illegal, or sexually demeaning manner. A year later, once Trump was in office, Flynt upped the stakes, this time offering a cool $10 million to anyone who came forward with any evidence that could lead to Trump's impeachment. Then, in 2019, Larry Flynt Publications sent Christmas cards out to a number of Republican congressional members. The card showed Trump dead in a pool of blood, with the killer saying, "I shot Donald Trump on Fifth Avenue and no one arrested me," which was a reference to a boast Trump had made about being able to make such a killing without losing any votes. Larry Flynt was married 5 times. His wives were Mary, Peggy, Kathy Althea, and Elizabeth. He had 1 son and 5 daughters. He leaves behind several grandchildren and great-grandchildren. How do you think we should remember Larry Flynt? A champion of freedom of speech or a peddler of smut? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.